Sam Burns. He may have shit the bed.
He may have.
I mean, there are more Koreans on this.
Hi there, this is Steve Spurrier.
Yeah.
You can join University of Florida Hall of Famer Shane Mathews and also the two-time SEC Player of the Year every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, opinions, and some of the biggest names in sports. You can find him on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or you can watch him live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter.
MR hotline, and then we will have Seth Harp comes out of the bullpen, and I don't know who he has as his guest. It will be a surprise. Let's go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by JC. JC, what hat are you wearing today? I can't tell.
Today we are
the Bruins.
The Bruins, who were in Dallas just a couple days ago. I'm sure you went to the game.
Yeah, I was right there, center ice.
Center ice, right behind the bench. They beat Dallas in overtime. Each team gets at least 1 point there. The winning gets 2. Then that Bruins went to Nashville last night, shut out the Predators. Bruins are the team with the best record in hockey, but that does not mean they're going to win the Stanley Cup. It just means they could potentially have home ice. Hockey is going to be really heating up here at QB in the next 2 months with the end of the season in early April, and then, of course, the Stanley Cup playoffs, which to me is one of the best sporting events that rivals the NCAA basketball tournament because of its longevity, its intensity, and its excitement. If you are into competition, basically. You don't even have to like hockey. If you just like watching guys compete, this is for you. And so that starts up in about a month and a half. So we just got to get through February. Then we'll get into basketball's postseason. We're all excited about that. Locally here, we've got baseball, softball, and the spring sports cranking up. We're all excited about that. We live in literally 70 to 80-degree weather here in Florida. There's no rain in the forecast, at least not until June. We're excited about that. So there's a lot to get excited about. If you want to be outdoors and watch sports, this is a great place to go because you're going to actually watch a team that wins here, and that's something different for us. And so that'll be good. And then you've got great weather to enjoy. I don't know what else you're looking for.
Are you working for the state of Florida? I mean, what are you doing here?
Well, I know you've been frozen. You've been frozen the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I'm just telling you, man, it's February, and I played golf with 79-degree weather. And looking at the looking forecast, we got 80-degree weather coming here the next 4 or 5 days. So if there's something going on like baseball, or if there's women's softball, or whatever it is, you can really enjoy the advantages of North Central Florida right here. So that's something to get excited.
I was eating breakfast or lunch or something the other day with some of the people on our staff. I think it was our security guys and all this kind of stuff. And they're like, I plan to retire in nine years and move to Florida. And Coach Spurrier, his big selling piece was when he recruited kids was, look, man, people work their entire lives, save up all their money to move to Florida. You can come as a 17-year-old for free.
I mean, listen, I just think we have an advantage. That's all there is to it. It's kind of like the SEC. It has an advantage in getting the best players, not just because of the geography, but just because of how you live life. You're not cooped up. You're not miserable. You're not cold all the time. I think it matters. I'm sorry. I think it does.
And Andy says here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law. I'm not familiar with this, but maybe you can chime in. He says, how does Brooks Koepka have buyer's remorse when Liv paid him $1 gazillion?
Okay.
What's that story? I missed it.
I missed it too, but psychologically speaking, not that I'm a doctor, but here's what I would guess. If that's going to be a question put to us here, you and I being the experts in that field, I would guess that money at some point becomes irrelevant, and competition and attention and basic coverage becomes a little bit more important because it creates relevancy. I'm telling you right now, nobody on the Live Tour to me is relevant. I don't even think about those golfers. I don't care what they've done in the past. I watch the PGA Tour because that to me is the real golf tour. We're about to have the TPC down here in Florida, in Northeast Florida, over there in Ponte Vedra, not too far from the condo. And we're going to watch the best players in the world playing for a title. That to me is a lot more attractive than some exhibition with a bunch of guys running around playing 3 days on a shotgun start. I don't care about that. I can watch that at the club, QB. They may not be the best golfer. There's Travis, my painter. There he is. There he is. Oh, get him. Toto's raising hell. But no, Travis is going to wrap up the painting here. But I think the issue is that we're going to watch the TPC. There's going to be 10 trillion people there at the TPC. Now, I don't know where Liv's playing, but they're not going to have the same crowds.
The Liv is playing at Orange County National.
So who cares? Nobody knows about that. And by the way, what channel are you going to watch that on? So to me, Brooks Koepka is saying this. I've got all the money I can count. I can't spend it all, but nobody cares anymore. And maybe that doesn't matter to some of these guys. Maybe it does. I think golfers like big galleries. I think they like exciting galleries. Look at that thing last week, dude. There is not one tournament on the Live Tour that rivals what we saw last week in Phoenix, Arizona. You couldn't be as far removed from the world as Phoenix, Arizona, and yet they had 1 million people over the 4 days watch that golf tournament. You ain't getting that on Live, Brooks. So, have fun. Count your money and go be irrelevant. That's what I think it is.
Yeah. Dan says Koepka took the money because he thought he wouldn't get healthy. Now that he's feeling better, he's a little regretful.
Right. Yeah. So, go beat up and win those 3-day shotgun starts. Brooks, have fun. We got one in Mississippi coming up at the end of March.
You think you should invite Koepka?
I think he would maybe finish in the top 10, maybe. But, I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know, dude.
Maybe.
It's the Masters.
We got a text here on the Titan More text line. From an anonymous this is from Dan. He said he loves the show. He says, Shane, what Gonzaga does to the other schools in their conference is nothing short of criminal. They cherry pick their way to the tournament every year. Is there anything to be done to force Gonzaga to a better conference?
Well,
I don't know if they really have an opportunity. I mean, the only thing they could do is, because I don't even know what the name of that conference is they're in, but
I'm going to tell you.
If they were on the East Coast, they could go in, how you just have certain schools that play just basketball in the Big East or something like that. Mm-hmm. But out west, they're in the West Coast Conference.
Okay.
So there's the Pac-12 is not going to allow them just to play basketball because they don't play many other sports.
Correct.
But I hear what he's saying.
Listen, I don't feel sorry for them. I mean, they're in the tournament every year. They get a great seeding every year. Everybody loves Gonzaga. It's the tournament Cinderella, darling, wonderful school, small town, this, that, and it's great. But it hurts them playing Pacific and Loyola Marymount on a consistent basis. Why? Because it doesn't challenge them at all. They get into a setting then, say in the Elite Eight, after they get easy pickings through the first 2 rounds in the Sweet 16. But before you know it, they've got to play somebody. So, look, they're very impressive, though, for the size of their school and the player and the quality of player they get. And the coach, Mark Few, he's one of the best. But they do not get challenged for 3-4 months out of the year in their conference. That hurts. I'm sorry, it just does.
Yep.
St. Mary's is the best thing that they have in that conference to challenge them.
Hey, Chris Doring Mortgage. They do mortgage lending, right? Helping home buyers throughout Gainesville, North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. We'll have Chris on live sometime next week talking about the Steve Spurrier Coaches Award banquet that will be coming up at Spurrier's. I think it's this month or the 1st of March. I'm not sure the exact date, but
are you going?
I will not be there. I will not be there, JC.
No, that's right. You're coaching. I was invited to that. And by the way, speaking of just going back, St. Mary's is first in the West Coast Conference, if you didn't know that.
Ooh.
Yes, St. Mary's 23-5. They are in first place in that.
What is Gonzaga's record?
I'm going to find it, but they are in first place. So I just find that to be, at least there is a school that's somewhat challenging. Well, there is challenging them.
Well, St. Mary's goes to the tournament about every year too.
They do. Oh,
and that's where our basketball coach played basketball.
Our Gonzaga team is second at 22-5, so they're right there. I'd say they're one game separating the two because St. Mary's beat Gonzaga the last time they played.
Yeah, and the Gators travel to Arkansas tomorrow to play the Hogs.
Good
Will
luck.
not be an easy task without Colin Castleton, but you never know. You never know when that happens.
I know.
JC, are you going? I think tonight is opening night for Gator baseball. Are you going to show up there at Conjuring Ballpark?
I'll be traveling to Biloxi, Mississippi this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going to walk the bridge this weekend?
Oh, absolutely. I love that bridge between Ocean Springs and Biloxi right there. Harrison County, Jackson County. I know my southern Mississippi coast, and I do love it there. It is easy living. It's not outrageously expensive, and it's got entertainment. It's a fun place to be. I'm just going to tell you, I like the Gulf Coast of Mississippi a lot. But no, QB, the baseball is very interesting to me. I really think Kevin O'Sullivan needs a good year. He needs a big year, actually, not just one of these years where they get to a regional, host 4 teams and then lose in the super regional. They need something big this year, I think, for that program to kind of get off the ground a little bit. It's been kind of slouching here in the last few years. I don't think he's happy with the results they've had. This is going to be a very important season, I think, for Gator baseball.
Yep, no doubt about it. And also, there's not a whole lot to talk about in the sports world right now. If you are still a football fan, the XFL cranks up tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. The Guardians play on ABC Live at, I think, 8 Eastern against the Roughnecks.
All right.
4 o'clock, I think, San Antonio and St. Louis go at. St. Louis has a very good team, by the way.
That's St. Louis. Okay.
Led by AJ McCarron.
I'm going to get you the odds on the XFL futures. I'll let you know how that looks. And then now I know you're not part of the USFL, but that's another competing league, right?
Well, they start in April.
Okay.
Real quick, JB says here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melon Law. Luke Poulter is in the episode 4 of Full Swing. Seems like a good kid from a great family. Sports his Gator golf hats throughout the episode. Yeah, Luke Poulter, Ian Poulter's son, is on the Gator golf team. I don't know if he's in the rotation.
I don't even know if he played in the Gator Invitational, which they easily won just a week or so ago. But I think they're pretty good.
Dan chimes in when you were referring to baseball needing to have a good year. He says anything but a World Series visit is a bust this year for Florida softball too. Well, Dan, come on, Dan. I know Dan's a softball guy, but they've been to the World Series 11 of Tim Walton's 14 years. I believe that's correct.
When you set that expectation, QB, anything less is a disappointment.
Well, yeah, but I say it every year before softball season starts. Death, taxes, and Gators to OKC is a given. It's a given. They were horrible last year. They had a bad team and went last year. Okay.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say they were horrible. It was maybe his best coaching job and his least talented team, and they went last year. So
I would.
Dan says Dan's probably. I don't think he's ever been to the Women's College World Series. You have to go. It will be one of the greatest sporting events you've been to. I promise.
Well, I think it's also, and we brought this up in the past, QB, with Oklahoma and Texas rolling in, man. It's just going to add more impressive. The SEC truly is going to become ground zero for women's softball, or for softball. I shouldn't even say women's softball because it's softball. It's ground zero for softball. And we know that now with the dynasty of Oklahoma and the very competitive Texas Longhorns rolling into this conference already. I mean, that is going to be tremendous. I can't wait. I tell you, we just got to get through 23 and get into 24. We're going to have a presidential election. We're going to have Oklahoma and Texas in the league. We're going to have so much excitement in 24, but I'm still holding on. I think 23 can be a much better year. You're looking at, hopefully, as you say, 8 wins on the football team, World Series appearance with the baseball team, and of course with the softball team. Still a lot to look forward to with the 23, the year 2023. But man, 2024 is going to be off the chain. It's going to be so great.
I misunderstood what Dan put on here. He's been to the Women's College World Series several times a year.
He's in Dallas. So. Yeah, if he's in Dallas, he's 3 hours away, man. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I've been there. I've been there.
Yeah. Did they? How far did they advance when you went, JC?
They advanced to the. I think there were 4 teams left. They beat Nebraska. The game I'll never forget was when they beat Nebraska in a game that went 6 hours. I was sitting there with Chris Harry. And we were sitting together just going through it, and just not believing the game we were watching. It was a 6-hour game between Florida and Nebraska that Florida eventually won. Tim will tell you all about that. But there were a lot of memories. I've been twice actually, and I saw him beat Auburn there. But you know, the Oklahoma City is it's really kind of unfair because Oklahoma has all of the advantages and they're the best team. So it's tough to win. I mean, Tim will tell you it's not a cakewalk at all.
No, it's not. I've been twice and they lost in the national championship series both times, so I'm not allowed to go back.
No, you've been banned. Yeah.
I've been banned.
Right.
JC, we got a text on the Titan More text line from Leroy. Leroy said, "Hey guys, I know it's early, but who do y'all think wins the SEC in football next year?"
Wow, Leroy. Well, I mean, so early. It depends on quarterback play. If
it's actually, you know, it's kind of an interesting question because obviously you would lean towards Georgia. Georgia lost a lot of players. They lost Stetson Bennett. Is whoever they put in at quarterback? Is it Carson Beck? Is he going to continue? They got a new, you know, Bobo's taking over for Todd Monken. Alabama has a ton of question marks. I don't remember the last time they had this many question marks at quarterback going into a season.
Well, the kid's name is Ty Simpson.
Right, but you've never seen him play. You had seen a little bit of Jalen Hurts, a little bit of Tua or Mac Jones when it was their time to take over as the quarterback. You haven't seen these guys play a lick other than your boy TJ Yeldon, who is not going to be the quarterback.
What's
his name?
God, I almost said Joe.
Oh, Jalen Milroe.
Jalen Milroe. But now this kid Simpson from Tennessee, they say, is going to be quite good. And Tommy Reese, the new OC, you know, he'll settle in and they'll figure out they're going to run the football. They're going to run the football, and that's what they're going to try to do first.
I saw where Notre Dame's lost a lot of coaches this year.
Yeah, it's
interesting to me. I wonder what's going on there because Tommy Reese played quarterback there.
Sure did.
His dad was a scout. His dad worked in the scouting department, personnel, when I was with the Bears. I actually saw him and Tommy, talked to him a little bit at the Gator Bowl that I did the radio. And, you know, his whole family is Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And to leave Notre Dame, now you went to Alabama, I understand it. But that would be like Steve Spurrier being the OC at Florida back when he was a young kid and leaving to go somewhere else. I feel like there's something going on at Notre Dame.
Going to Tennessee or something. Well, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the offer and the opportunity. I mean, he has it at Notre Dame, but I really believe, like you always say, where do you go that puts you in the best opportunity to win a championship? As hard as the SEC is, if you're going to be in it, be in one of the top 3 or 4 teams that gives you a chance to win it. So I guess he's looking at that. He's looking at his career path, and he's thinking, you know what? I can move on from Saban's staff in 3 years if the Alabama wins and go coach the fill in the blank. Now, I guess you could do that at Notre Dame too, but let's be honest. How's Notre Dame going to win the national title, right? How are they going to win the national title? So they don't get the players. I mean, they get a lot of good ones, but they don't get the players, in my mind, that's going to push them over the finish line to win a national title. That's why Brian Kelly did such a remarkable job at Notre Dame, and I think people have overlooked that. Now, LSU didn't overlook it. That's why they hired him. By the way, you know, he's getting divorced, so he's going through some off-field issues, Brian Kelly. But the LSU program seems to be coming back on, the right glide path here. And so that just shows you how good a job I think he did at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a tough job to win at, man. It's a tough job. I mean, it's a tough job to win. They're not in the conference. I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, Andy asked here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law. Shane, at this point, do you think XFL games will be high scoring or defensive battles until offenses start to click? Boy, that's a great question. I think it all depends on how well your quarterbacks play. You know, you haven't had a whole lot of time to do stuff, but it like I told you, it's the most unique deal I've ever been a part of because
you can challenge any play.
Well, as I stated earlier, it's very similar to coaching high school ball because you don't really know what you have until you get it on campus, and then you have to figure out, okay, what can they do and kind of tweak stuff to their talent. But the problem is, at least in high school, you can work with them after practice, or you have all summer to practice. You have spring. We had like 2.5 weeks, and about 6 of those days you did nothing. and you can't. I don't know if I've told you, JC, but this is on another show. I think we have an hour and 40 minutes to practice.
Yeah,
not an hour 41. I mean,
Yeah.
it literally. They have people
Exactly.
there that say practice is over, and you can't go out and throw extra routes to your receivers.
Wow.
It's like you're out, get on the bus, go back to the hotel, and you can meet a little bit. So it's very, very unique, I should say.
Well,
But
just
it
take
should
them
be
down.
fun.
Take them down to one of those conference rooms that are empty and run some curls.
Well, you can do that. It's called a walkthrough, JC, but that's different than actually throwing in live action. So
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Dan says must
Well-
be something in the water. Coach O now Kelly getting divorced. You just touched on that.
Well, I'm not. I guess it's not relevant, but maybe it is. I mean, that's not something to eat. And look, John James Fisher dealt with it. How has he done, John James? I guess financially he's done great. Yeah, but at Texas A&M, you think they're happy there?
No.
No, they're not.
So,
And I'm not saying it's because of that, but that was something that happened at FSU. How did that end up for John James Fisher? Didn't end up well. He got run out of town.
yeah.
To be replaced by the immortal Willie Taggart. By the way, there's a good little basketball team in the state of Florida that we haven't mentioned at all, that we're not paying attention to, that will be a pretty high seed in the NCAA tournament. And that little basketball team plays in Boca Raton, and that is your Florida Atlantic Owls.
They're coached by a former Gator assistant of Mike White.
And let's also bring up Chris Beard for a minute, since we all decided that he was, evil incarnate. Every charge that caused him to get fired has been dropped, and now he's out, and his charges were dropped. So what does a guy like that do? Does he sue the school?
So where do you think he's going to coach next?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, he had a job at Texas. I don't know who's going to hire him, but let's be honest. He did a very good job at Texas. He recruited very good players, and they are very good because of him. And Texas could win it all. Hell yes, they could. So I don't know. I think he's a good coach. These charges were dropped. I don't know what he's going to do, but just pointing that out for everybody.
He'll be coaching somewhere. Chris, we already did that one. Are you in the market to buy or sell your home? Darlene Weeby, a realtor with Caldwell Banker in Parish, will value fast, friendly, reliable service. Give her a call at 352-562-1411 to help your dreams come true. All right, JC, a few more minutes before we get out of here and turn it over to Seth Harp.
All right. So big game.
The only good thing that's really happening right now, it's a really good golf tournament on the PGA Tour going on. The Genesis Invitational. My guy, Max Homa, leads, is tied with Keith Mitchell, the Georgia Bulldog, both at 7 under par.
That's right.
Did you watch any of that? Tiger shot 2 under.
Yeah, no, and I am this weekend. I'll watch it after the cut. That's typically when I watch this stuff. And I think I think Max Homa is the hot name on the PGA Tour. Everybody likes him. He's extremely popular, and he's a great player. He's won something like 4 or 5 tournaments that you don't know about. I mean, this guy has won a bunch of tournaments on this tour. And speaking of Tiger Woods, he is tied with Sam Snead at 82 PGA Tour wins, which is the record. He needs one more, and I think at age 47, there's still a little gas in the tank to maybe grab one more win in his career at some tournament. I don't know if he'll play in just any tournament for obvious reasons, but I do think that if he gets his game right and he has a good weekend this weekend, maybe then comes back over to this side of the country to play golf. We need one more win for Tiger to become the all-time leader in wins on the PGA Tour and eclipse Sam Snead's record. He's tied right now with Sam Snead at 82, which
he ain't gonna win on the tour.
If you think about it, I think there is a way. If maybe he shows up at the in Hartford one year. All I'm saying is this: it is so hard to win a golf tournament at this level for most of these guys. There are a few that just seem to do it consistently, like John Rahm and people like this. But to think about 82 wins and 15 majors, he's the greatest of all time. To me, it's not even worth talking about. But I just don't know if he can get one more. I'm really hoping he does. But anyway, yeah, it's a great tournament in LA. Riviera is one of their favorite stops, and then they all come east to Fort Lauderdale and the Honda next week. But yeah, you're looking good with Max Homa. My guy Rory's at 4 under. You know, this is a good tournament to watch. You're going to see some super play on the weekends. You know, these are the best in the world.
Before we get out of here, Andy says reports say Brian Kelly and his wife have reportedly reconciled and are actively trying to have the divorce case withdrawn. So
that would be great. Good job, Andy, on the update there from that news.
He works for Entertainment Tonight.
Well, I just heard that on the radio 2 days ago on Full Ride with Rick Neuheisel and Chris Childers. But I certainly think that he's been a great coach. Not, he hasn't won a championship, but he's been a great coach. He did a great job at Notre Dame. LSU's got a good one. They are going to be a factor again, and that's that's just the truth. They can recruit anybody there.
Yep. Daniel says Tiger will win the Pro-Am in Orlando with his kid Charlie.
Does that count as a PGA Tour win?
I don't know, but they were in the hunt this past year, but they weren't really.
I don't know if that counts as a PGA Tour win. I think that's just kind of an exhibition for show. But I'll just say that one more is all he needs, and he's 47. QB Phil Mickelson won a major at 50. So
yeah, and everything went right. The planets have to line up perfectly for him to win again, right, in my opinion.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah. All right, JC, have a good weekend.
Man. Good luck. Good luck to the Guardians this weekend. We're looking forward.
We just want to make a few first downs. That's all we want.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good luck down in Houston. You'll have a great time, and hope you guys pull out a dub. And we'll talk about it Monday.
Hey, if we don't, the sun will still come up, my friend.
It sure will.
All right, that's JC joins on the Titan More Hotline. Going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, we'll be joined by Seth Harp. We'll take over and get us rolling and finishing up this Friday. I hope you have a great weekend. You're watching and listening to Podup with Mathews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi, Steve Spurrier here. Making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Well, happy Friday to you. Out of the bullpen. It's fitting that baseball season starts tonight in Gainesville, right? Seth Harp, Harp on Sports, taking you the rest of the way and getting you into your weekend, courtesy, of course, of the Titan MRI hotline. You want to chime in? You have any questions you want to throw my way? Feel free, courtesy of Meldon Law, of course. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Baseball season is here. It's been interesting. Some of you know, some of you may not know. I'm the director of programming for ESPN Gainesville. So like the last few 2 weeks here, getting softball and baseball lined up to make sure everything runs as fluidly as possible. And of course, softball's mercy ruling everybody in sight, but baseball starts tonight. And it was interesting because I was starting to think back and now I have your memories that pop up on Facebook over time. I was a lot less gray then, maybe a little bit thinner then, but it's hard for me sometimes to realize it's been 6 years since the Florida Gator baseball team won the national championship. And it then dawns on you that it's been half a decade since they've been to Omaha. So I was sitting here thinking about like Kevin O'Sullivan and where baseball sits as we head into opening weekend here in Gainesville and where the program was compared to where the program is. Now you have the COVID year that, threw a gigantic curveball and things. I get it. But then you had the year that was it's harsh, but it was the underachievement year, wasn't it? The year that South Alabama absolutely smoked the Gators right down the road. What was that thing like 17-1? It got out of hand. You had that rain delay when it was already a 10-run rule, just ugliness. And then last year, competitive, had the series lead, probably had a ticket punch to Omaha. And then, of course, the comeback was Oklahoma. And then, I decided I'm out. So I'm sitting here thinking about whether or not, is it Omaha or bust? I mean, if this team gets back to the super regionals and gets dumped again, we talk about expectations and depending on what poll you look at, preseason number 2, right? Maybe the most talent in the SEC other than LSU, maybe a better baseball team than LSU. Expectations are high. Now, they're not as high as they were 3 years ago when people were talking about, could this team win 65 games type of, could this team win 70 games? It's like, oh gosh, guys, we're getting kind of ridiculous now. This team ends up with single-digit losses. And there have been a few teams in college baseball history that ended up with single-digit losses. But that type of expectation level is where we were getting. We were, weren't we? 3 years ago. Now it's kind of shifted a little bit. So your thoughts on baseball, if you have them, and expectation level. We expect the softball team to go to the Women's College World Series. We do. Even though a couple years ago, was it 2 years ago, they got beat by Georgia. Georgia swept them, right, in Super Regional. But expectation level for this baseball team now, it's been 5 years since they've been to Omaha. And I'm trying to figure out an analogy of who they are in other sports. When you start to look back on things, hasn't Florida baseball turned into Kentucky basketball? Isn't that what they've been? Good. Tournament worthy. Even a little success in the tournament. But the whole key in college basketball, right, is getting past that first weekend. Getting into the Sweet 16. And the big boys get past the second weekend. With where we were with Gator baseball, okay, you get into the opening round, that's great. But the whole key is getting to that next weekend. And there's where Kentucky basketball has struggled over the course of the last few years. And that's where Gator baseball has struggled over the course of the last few years. Lineup-wise, talent-wise, now it's getting everything to click together, right? So there we go on that front. At least we head into another season here. It looks like the weather could be a little bit nasty tonight and heading into the weekend here. It's going to be a little bit colder, but just keep it locked in. You know how rain delays work on the radio station and how we pivot from one thing to the next at all times. But it was interesting as I was putting the schedule together for the next few weeks here. We have something, because softball's in a tournament on a West Coast swing next weekend. So it's one of those things where we go like baseball, softball, women's basketball, softball, baseball, softball, baseball, softball. It's going to be a zoo. So hope you like softball and baseball because it's going to be everywhere. Like starting next Tuesday, I think we have something like 10 games in 7 days or 10 games in 6 days, something along that plethora. Let's see. Nancy says super regional. Yeah, I think that's kind of where you are, right? That's the expectations. You get to the final 8, the Elite 8, if you will, in baseball. We're talking about baseball now, not basketball. The Castleton injury, and that is just something totally different. I know the guys hammered that out a little bit on Thursday's podcast and what that does for this basketball team going forward. And I thought that they rallied around that with what little time was left in that game the other night pretty well. I don't want to go off too much of a tangent there, but there we go when it comes to baseball. Quick reminder, let's see with everything that's going on here, QC Kinetics Podup with Mathews in the morning, a service of QC Kinetics. You got joint pain in your knees, shoulders, hip, or back that won't go away. You need to check out QC Kinetics for long-lasting relief, not surgery, drugs, or downtime. Schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics with locations in Ocala, now open in Gainesville. 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. Something else. There's a couple other things that popped up, other than just like, Gator baseball and softball heading into the weekend. And it's one of these things I think it's fun. And maybe it's because he has personality, and this is my favorite NFL football team, but Travis Kelce is hosting Saturday Night Live. It's been announced that he will host Saturday Night Live. I think it's Kelsey Ballerina is going to be the musical guest. That's not this weekend. It's a couple weeks away. So I put together my short list of sports figures, sports personalities that I would love to see host Saturday Night Live. Now, over the years, we've had numerous people that have hosted, right? Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley. I think we got both Mannings to do it, correct? We ended up, I know, of course, Eli Manning did it. I'm trying to think of did Michael Phelps host it? Steph Curry. So over the years, we've had sports figures, and Travis Kelce is now the latest. Now, I know it's not what it used to be. I get it. My era growing up as a kid was the Mike Myers, Dana Carvey era. I get it. The Chris Rock era. And of course, my parents' era was the Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, that era, the Gilda Radner era. And I know that the show's changed, but it's still, to me, interesting when you see athletes do it. And Joe Montana, I've seen Joe Montana do it. So I put together my list of sports figures that are currently active that I would love to see host and do Saturday Night Live. I have two coaches. And you're going to sit there and say, what? Come on, I don't want to see those guys do it. They'd be bad at it. No, I think their personality would make it fun. The two coaches I would love to see host Saturday Night Live are Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. I think they would be absolutely hilarious watching them deliver lines and some of the risque things that they may do. I think it would be absolutely the impeccable timing, because it's kind of like this dry sense of, well, I kind of like to see it like that, but I don't know. Right? Belichick and Saban, they don't have the exact same personality, but it's very, very close. And there's coaches that I think that Sean McVay, some of the more outgoing coaches, that would be kind of fun doing it. But I'd love to see Nick Saban and Bill Belichick from the football world host Saturday Night Live. Those are coaches. Now, when it comes to figures, when it comes to just straight up sports figures, LeBron, we've seen him time and time again do it. You have a next crop of guys in the NBA that are coming up that are really engaging, but I don't know whether or not they're big enough household names yet to completely and totally, I'll say mesmerize a nation, but grab a group of people. And Travis Kelce's personality and outgoingness over the course of Super Bowl week, and just the thing that got Travis Kelce Saturday Night Live is what? You have to fight for your right to party after the AFC Championship game. His relationship with his mother, and his brother. That's why Travis Kelce ended up getting to host Saturday Night Live. JB Wilson, is this courtesy of our, wow. Melton Facebook Live question. This is JB, this is great. Deion Sanders. Has Deion done it before? Maybe he hasn't. Greg, has Shaq done SNL? I think Shaq has done. Yeah, but you see, you guys are on the right line there. You guys are on the right line when it comes to, I know Barkley has done it. Those TV personalities, former players, they're so outgoing. And you build your arc around those guys. Networks build their broadcasts around those guys. Here's what's interesting about this. Like the Michael Strahans, the Howie Longs, the Terry Bradshaws, I don't know if they have that in them anymore. Now, 25 years ago, yes. But I don't know, those guys, you have an entire generation growing up that don't remember those guys playing. My nephews that are in college don't have any recollection. They barely remember Howie's kids playing. They barely remember Chris Long playing, let alone Howie. So, I mean, you have guys on, NBC as well. And, there was a time a couple years ago that you may have said Tony Romo could have done it. I don't know now. Things change. Tom Brady, he's done it, hasn't he? So again, it was announced earlier that Travis Kelce is going to host Saturday Night Live. Just asking what sports figures you'd like to see do SNL that you haven't seen host it yet, or you'd like to see. And the two big college ones I have are Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. College basketball wise, I think there was a time it would never have happened, right? But how hilarious would it have been 20, 25 years ago to see Bobby Knight do it? I don't know if he ever would have agreed to it, but college basketball is tough, right? Because a lot of those guys are gone. Like the Coach K's of the world are retired. Roy Williams are retired, and you almost want somebody that's still active. And I know that Belichick may do it when he's retired, or Saban, you could get him to do it when they're retired. And think about the exposure, what that would do for a college football program if you could get your guy on there to do that. So we'll see. The sad thing about it is everything. Cliff Neal just writing in, courtesy of the Melvin Law Facebook question page. Bruce Pearl. That's great. That's a great pick. But does Bruce have that cachet? I think if Bruce could get back to another Final Four like he did, 4 or 5 years ago when he went to the Final Four, and he's outgoing and out, I think you may be able to grab it then. And again, Travis Kelce had the Super Bowl momentum and the football momentum. I'm sitting here going through all these guys. You know what sport I haven't mentioned yet? What sport haven't I mentioned yet? Is anybody hosting it? Right? Can you think of a baseball player that's ever hosted Saturday Night Live? Isn't that crazy? I mean, I was ripping off NBA guys left and right. We're talking about Shaq and Charles Barkley and LeBron and Steph Curry and football. Joe Montana's done it in football. Both Manning brothers have done it in football. Travis Kelce's about ready to do it in football. We can go up and down. Tom Brady up and down the list. Hockey, the only one that would have been able to do it would have been Gretzky, right? But I can't think of any baseball player that's ever done it. And I know we got something. Greg says the writing on that show's bad. Look, I told you it's not what it used to be, because sketch comedy's hard. And shows like The Kids in the Hall, was it Fridays? Those shows just don't. It's a tough thing to do, and the commitment time and the actor. I think Weekend Update, as a Colin Jost and Michael Che, I think that's brilliant. Those two guys working together. But other than that, I didn't want to go down a whole entire SNL rip here. But got Greg Steele typing in Gronk, another great one. Derek Jeter probably has. JB, has he? Maybe he has. Maybe Jeter has done it. That would be perfect. New York City, the king of New York, the prince of New York. Yeah, so good stuff there. But anyway, that's just one of those things that popped up when I saw that SNL is going to have Travis Kelce hosting it again. I wonder if you feel like you're Patrick Mahomes, you're king of the world, right? You got back-to-back Super Bowls, and it's one of those things. The king wants more of his kingdom, right? And apropos of the Chiefs' kingdom. But I was sitting here thinking that Kelce, Mahomes wins the Super Bowl. Mahomes, he's a great personality too, right? He's the MVP, and now his tight end gets to host it. Yeah. Greg, Big Papi, that's another good one. David Ortiz. But we're getting to the point now where, how long has David been out? 6, 7 years? You almost have to strike when the lightning is hot. Or lightning's hot, good gracious. Maybe too many cups of coffee this morning. Strike when the iron is hot, and Travis Kelce is doing it. Okay, so we talked about a little bit about Gator baseball in there, and expectations as another season starts, and how I think that they become what Kentucky basketball is. Still a good program, quality program. They get things lined up, a tournament program. The Gators are going to be a NCAA baseball tournament program, but have expectations that Kentucky gotten to where Sweet 16 is a good year. I know that fan base thinks they should win the national championship every year, and it doesn't happen. But expectations for Kentucky's basketball fan base, if you would go and tell Kentucky fans now, hey, you're going to go to the Sweet 16, they would be ecstatic. And when's the last time Kentucky got past the Sweet 16 in college basketball? They haven't been to a Final Four in what? It's the undefeated season. Has it been a decade since Kentucky's been to the Final Four in college basketball? So still a very good program. Blue blood program. But I think sometimes fans confuse blue blood, great program with competitive elite program. A couple different things. like Michigan State went to 7 Final Fours in 12 years, something like that. So it's like, oh my God, great. Tom Izzo, great, awesome program that he's got there. It is, but it's no longer an elite program. So I am with Gator baseball, but preseason number 2, expectations are through the roof. I think they've become the Kentucky of college basketball, college baseball, where, okay, we got to get to make the tournament. And well, if this team makes the tournament and bows out in the super regional again, it's like, okay, punching that ticket all the way through. All right. So we're done Gator baseball. I had a little fun with SNL. The other thing, is we head into a weekend here of college basketball, right? And, with Colin Castleton and broken hand and where Gator men's basketball goes from here, you have Arkansas. And I think we've resigned ourselves to a fact that, at least I have, that this team is not going to go to the NCAA tournament. We were doing mental gymnastics over the course of the last few weeks, and that's what you do. That's what makes sports fun. If you're not at the top competing for a championship, if you're one of those bubble teams, that's what makes the NCAA tournament so interesting. What it used to be RPI wins have turned into quad wins, quad 1, quad 2, quad. It turned into those things. But, when I hopped on with you guys a couple of weeks ago, we were sitting here talking about how the Gators, if they would go 5-3 in their final 8 games, I wrote this down, they could get like 17-12 and heading into the SEC tournament, or 18-13 heading into the SEC tournament. And they didn't do that, right? After they beat Tennessee, they lost to Kentucky, competitive, but lost to Kentucky. And then they get the doors blown off in Tuscaloosa. And then they turn around, and the one that's going to be the straw is the Vandy game at home, right? But bounce back and win midweek this week against Ole Miss. And now Arkansas waiting in the wings. And one of the things, and this is where you I'm half full, half empty, pessimistic, optimistic type of thing. But now this team, you're getting a look at what it's going to look like without Colin Castleton going forward, aren't you? And aren't we? And okay, well, what's this going to look like next year? Now, not all these guys will be back next year, but you start to see what they're going to do without the big man over the course of the next 4 or 5 games. It's not the same as 7 or 8 guys entering the portal or declaring for the draft and skipping the bowl game. So your bowl game, now you get to see what your future is. You get to see what next year is going to be, because so many of these guys have gone up and left. But you start to get a little bit of a glimpse. So this weekend is going to be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting for Todd Golden. It's going to be very interesting just to see chemistry-wise what they do now that big pin has been removed. Greg writing in, could the Castleton injury be better for the future of this basketball team, letting other players get more time? I say when you take your best player away, I don't know if it's ever better in the now, but better for the future. Well, you have to learn to play without him. And I was, not that I planned on going down this path, because this is one of those things where the light bulb just kind of fires off. Not that this is the same as the scenarios that I'm going to paint you, because it's not. But teams that go on to have success after their best player leaves. We've seen it in college football. We've seen it in Major League Baseball. And the ones that I think of immediately are this. The one that pops to the top of my mountain the quickest, or climbs the mountain the quickest, is what? It's Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning leaving Tennessee, and the next year T. Martin winning a national championship with Peerless Price, right? Peyton Manning, silver medal Heisman, off to the Colts. When Peyton Manning was setting the record for a rookie with interceptions as a quarterback, Tennessee won the national championship. Now, again, this is not the same with Castleton leaving or breaking his hand and being done, at least for a month here, maybe his college career. Right? This team's not going to make the tournament. I don't know if Colin's going to come back and play in the NIT. It'd be crazy to come back, and if that scenario could ever even occur. But there's an example of a guy that retired or graduated, and then the next year they went on to have success when their best guy was gone. They thought, oh my gosh, this is going to end. Don Mattingly is the other guy that I think of. Don Mattingly, pride and joy of Evansville, Memorial High School in Indiana. Don Mattingly retiring, having enough in New York having enough in New York, saying, I'm done with Steinbrenner. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Mattingly retiring, and then them winning the World Series. Rookie by the name of Derek Jeter comes into play shortstop. I can't even remember who was the first baseman for the Yankees in '96 when they won the World Series. I can't remember when. I know Tino Martinez eventually came in, but Tino was on the Mariners there for a while. See, it's amazing that sometimes when those guys go, then it opens up different avenues and different paths. Not exactly the same, but the Kansas City Chiefs, Tyreek Hill's gone. What happens? Well, Tyreek Hill leaves. That forces the Chiefs to spread the ball around a little bit more. They focus more on the running game. You see Pacheco running the Super Bowl and look at the success that they had. So, again, it'll be interesting now that Castleton is out, what this does for this team as it embarks on these final 2.5, 3 weeks here before the SEC tournament begins, and what Todd Golden and company have in store. Let's see a couple things rolling in here. Cliff says, courtesy of Meldon Law, we will get a good look at Todd Golden's coaching ability the rest of the season. Yeah, we've already seen a little bit of it. And the thing is with Colin really doesn't fit his size, and it doesn't fit what Todd wants to do. Todd's much more of what? The air raid. He's much more of up and down the court, 40 minutes. Let's see how fast we can do this thing. Much more Loyola Marymount than, 2-3 half court type style. So not that this team has been playing 2-3 half court style. Just he's more of, athletic swingmen that can move the ball up and down the court at a pretty big rate when it comes to speed. Greg, this team desperately needs other players to step up and be scorers. Yeah. About to find out what you got when the big man's gone. Other people are going to have to do some things. Other people are going to have to step up. Opportunities there. Do you look at it as a problem or an opportunity? Do you look at it as, every tough question or every tough quiz needs an answer? So do they have when Todd Golden looks down to his left or look down to his right, depending on if they're at home or on the road, and sees what he has in his bench, are there guys there that can fill in for that? Are there guys that can make up for that? You almost have to look at it like a Moneyball, Billy Bean situation. Can you recreate Colin Castleton in the aggregate? Can you recreate him with what's on your bench? Can you find 3 or 4 guys down there that can somehow go 22 and 12? Are there 3 extra guys down there that can do that for you? And they don't, as long as you can recreate that in the aggregate, you're fine. Fine for the rest of the year, not completely going forward, but you know what I mean. But it's going to be an interesting next 4 or 5 games here. And a lot of you guys are right that are chiming in here like, we're going to see what he can do, see how creative he can get coaching wise. Yeah. People lose players. What do you do when you lose them? Now, Florida lost their best player. And it'll be interesting to see if this has been it for Colin Castleton. What ends up being his legacy here? I guess this is a discussion for a different time, so we only have a couple minutes left. But if this is it for Colin, when you look back on this 5, 10, 15 years from now, when you look back on Colin Castleton, what will his legacy be? He's one of the top 10 scorers of all time. Is he? Did he get in the top? He's in the top 10. Right now, I guess if you're a college basketball player and you stay around for 4 years, all 4 years, you're going to be in the top 10 scoring in the history of your program, just because most guys don't do that anymore. So it'll be interesting when you start to see the greatest team and those compilations that always exist. And what I consider to be one of the lamest things that sports media do is the Mount Rushmore of sports. Gang, we were doing that stuff in college. And you can tell by the hair how great it is. I ain't in college anymore. That was 22 years ago. We were doing those topics then. It's kind of like on to the next. But when you talk about like all-time Gator great teams, and you look at benches and, okay, who would be the starting center? And people do this all the time. The all-time great Yankees team? Who would be the starting left fielder? Who would be the starting center? It'd be interesting to see with Colin Castleton. He's going to be in the top 10 when it comes to major offensive categories, what his legacy ends up being. But again, it's a different discussion for a different day. So there we go. Heading into the weekend, just some things for you. And I can't thank Shane and everybody and Freddie enough for letting me hop in here for the last 25, 30 minutes of this. So, like I said, baseball season's here, and going to the bullpen and bringing in the righty here to give you a couple innings as we head into what is opening weekend for Gator baseball. If you're out at the park, hey, enjoy it and dodging the raindrops. I'll be back at the radio station making sure that everything runs as fluidly and as seamless as possible as we bounce back and forth between baseball and softball games. But there you go. And it's going to be an interesting interesting spring. It feels like fall out right now today, doesn't it? But with Gator baseball coming up and Gator softball coming up, it's going to be a busy week, and continue to listen to the station. We'll keep you updated on what games are going to run which day, but of course, baseball will take priority, and we'll get softball in. And what did I say at the beginning of the podcast? We have something like 15 baseball and softball games coming up over the course of the next 10 days. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So hope you enjoy it. It was good talking to you. Thanks everybody involved, Phil, everybody, the whole gang. Appreciate it as always. Enjoy your weekend. Take care. This has been Seth Harp from Harp on Sports, filling in for Podup with Mathews here in the morning.